Welcome into Action Island presented by FanDuel. Happy Monday, everyone. Week 4 wrapping up with an amazing crew. Charlie DiSturco, Chad Millman, Prop Bomb. Great to see you all. I'm Meghan Payton. We have a fun show for you guys. If you're new to Action Island, we have a lot of fun here. Game show-esque style. We build you a same-game parlay, three legs that is. We're going to have the panel present a couple votes or a couple bets. We'll vote some on, vote some off. And at the end, we're going to try to make you guys some cash for Monday Night Football. Action Island is presented by FanDuel. Action Island is very thankful to have them. You can get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you bet $5. This is for new users in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming. Terms and conditions do apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 or older. Great to see everyone tonight. We got a fun one. This is going to be like a high-scoring, fun NFC rival-esque Seahawks Giants. Seahawks are laying 2.5. The total's at 46.5. Saquon Barkley, doubtful for this game. Expecting him to probably not be in there. The defenses have been an issue for Seattle and for New York. And that's why I get excited, because in a primetime game, it means that we should be seeing some points. It means that we can look at a lot of overs in the prop market. You guys are the experts on this. Charlie, we'll start with you. Where are you looking for the first leg tonight?
Yeah, so you mentioned higher scoring game. I'm targeting the Giants cornerback group here. Jackson Smith-Njigba over 2.5 receptions. He draws a great matchup with Adoree Jackson in the slot. Jackson has a PFF grade, a coverage grade of 52.7 through the first 3 weeks, over 4 receptions a game, and a 201 total yards in that slot area. So I love this matchup here with JSN, who is a great buy low opportunity. Last week, just 1 reception, but the targets are still there. The first 2 weeks, he had 5 and 6 targets. And while he had a down week 3, I think this is the time to buy him. You look at just all together, that New York, they love to blitz the ball. They love to blitz, and they love to play man defense. And what does that do? That forces Geno to get rid of the ball quick. And JSN is his safety valve. His ADOT is very low, just 2.4. But that's because he gets these screens and short passes and gains and all of that. So rather than targeting his yards in this market, which he could obviously explode over, I like him to get 3+ receptions here. Our Action Network projections have him above 3 as well. So New York targeting their cornerbacks here, they struggle. And so I like JSN over 2.5.
JSN has been one of the most fun receivers to watch coming out of the draft. And I've been on the mindset of Seattle's going to start using him later on into the season. You're going to see that role really expand. And he really is that true 3 receiver for the Seahawks that they haven't had in a while. He's had over 3 receptions 2 of the last 3 games. He's someone that can be used in quick coverage. You're feeling pressure from the Giants, get the ball out. And the Giants don't have the best secondary right now, so they'll be giving up a lot of passing yards, and that means a lot more receptions for JSN. Where else are you looking, Charlie?
Yeah, so a lot of blitzes coming toward Geno Smith's way. Probably a time for him to scramble, and it's a revenge game for him. So I like him over 12.5 rushing yards here. He's just over this 1 of 3 times this year, but look at last year, and in the last 15 games, he hit this number 13 times. He had 5 rushes for 26 yards against the Giants last season. And so I mentioned that blitz heavy defense. That means that Geno's going to be able to run. He's more than an athletic enough to really break one free. And all we need is 13 yards here. It's a great buy low spot for Geno. The Giants, they haven't given up that many rushing yards to quarterbacks, but that's because they've been blown out by San Francisco and Dallas. So there's not really scrambles needed when, you have all the time in the world to drop back and pass. And you have guys like Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel to rely on. So another one that our action projections have over right around 15 rushing yards. Geno, not one to sit in the pocket all the time. I think he uses his legs. He even said that before the season, that he feels like he still has room to do stuff on the move. So like him over 12.5 rushing yards here.
Geno's a physical quarterback. He's fun to watch. He could move, and he hasn't had to. That's the best point, Charlie, is that he's been playing teams that, all right, they're up. Great. We're not going to risk, or Giants even haven't had to have quarterbacks that are trying to rush on them. But this should be a pretty close game. Seattle's only a 2.5-point favorite. I've been high on the Seahawks this offseason, and I genuinely think that Geno's going to have to move if they want to stay in this game. 2 options for our first leg: Geno Smith over his rushing yards, or go JSN over 2.5 receptions. Chad, Prop Bomb, let's vote it up. 2, 1. The first leg of our Monday night parlay is going to be, oh, I'm sorry, Chad. We're starting off strong. We're already voting you off the island. Prop Bomb and I say JSN's in and Geno's out. It's hard to bet against Jackson Smith and Jigba. He's going to be, I think, a receiver. We're talking about the next 4-5 years. He's going to take on a huge role in Seattle. It's already starting to click early on. I even had him as a bet for, a rookie to lead in receiving yards as kind of your longer shot. I like Jackson Smith and Jigba to get in a good spot this game. Prop Bomb, you were on my side. Why do you like JSN?
Yeah, I just think this is one of those scenarios where it's kind of like a CD Lamb of last year, a talented receiver. I think he was the first receiver to be selected in the draft. A guy that's just going to get off slow, have a slow start to the season. I mean, you had to think coming into the season, he had both a thigh and a wrist injury on his tag here. And I just think this is a good buy low, as Charlie's saying. He's a very talented player right now, just playing in a very limited role. Obviously, he's the wide receiver 3 on the team. And when you're targeting the receptions here, I prefer that more than any of the other props, just because of his low average depth of target, as Charlie alluded to earlier.
Here's another point. When the Seahawks played the Lions, in which was a very high scoring game, which we expect this to be against the Giants, JSN had 5 receptions. I see that being somewhat similar. The Giants are a weaker team than the Lions, but that means that JSN is going to have more opportunities to be targeted, which means more opportunities for receptions. Chad, I'm sorry that we voted Geno off. It's early. We just wanted to start some beef with you. That's really what happened. Why were you looking at Geno over JSN?
Well, listen, I actually feel like JSN is a great pick. And if you guys hadn't chosen him, I would have, but I did want to create a little bit of tension and drama. And I actually agree with a lot of what Charlie said about Geno. This is a defense that will blitz. They are blitzing as much as any other team in the NFL. And they're also really bad. And so they're playing a lot of man coverage. And we saw even last night what was happening with Patrick Mahomes against the Jets. A lot of pressure up front, a lot of man coverage. It left guys with their backs turned to the quarterback and wide open lanes for the quarterback to run and gather the yardage and get a first down if he needed to. I feel like this is a good spot for Geno Smith to potentially do the same thing. Also, as Charlie alluded to, this has a very high rating in our Action Labs database. So we're projecting it at 15 out of a scale of 1 to 10. This puts it at an 8. So it was one of our higher player prop ratings for the day.
Yeah, I do think it's a great bet. And I think this is the fun part about Action Island is we're going to give you a 3-leg parlay, but it's up to you. Maybe you want to make it a 6-leg, 7-leg, 8-leg. Let that be known to you. But here's the thing, Action, let's bring them all. I mean, hey, I'm all about the value. Action's projecting 15 yards for Geno Smith. The line's at 12.5. It does feel like a good number. I'm more confident on JSN, so we'll keep with that for our first leg. Jackson Smith and Jigba over 2.5 receptions. Chad, where are we looking for the second leg?
Well, look, I'm excited that you can't reject everything I'm saying.
That's
One
true.
of these has
we
to
can vote both off. What if we just vote both off and then we just take Charlie's second? Chad, sorry.
Listen, you can take them all. That's the beauty of it's a mix and match, scenario here. My first pick, Kenneth Walker over 66.5 rushing yards. We just talked about the Giants defense. It's not very good. And I can throw a lot of fancy advanced metrics at you. But if you look at all those advanced metrics, any way you look at it, the Giants rush defense is still not very good. In 3 games this year, Tony Pollard, 70 yards. James Conner, 106 yards. Christian McCaffrey, 85 yards. This is not a very good rush defense when you have a dominant back. And in Kenneth Walker, you have a back who actually is dominant, 4.6 yards per carry, but also he's fourth in the league in forcing missed tackles. So to me, there's a good opportunity if we believe the game script for the Seahawks is going to be that they are winning, then he will be getting a lot of carries. So give me Kenneth Walker over 66.5 rushing yards.
As much as I want to disagree with you, Chad, I love this pick. I love Kenneth Walker. He got 17 carries the last 2 games or more. He had 97 rushing yards last week. We've seen some explosiveness from him. He's a fun player to watch and a fun player to vote on. 66.5 really feels like a steal. This line has moved up, which is not surprising, but to get it at this number feels good to me. Where else are you looking for our second leg?
Yeah, okay. For the second leg, look, the Giants may score a touchdown. The Giants have to throw the ball to somebody. I'm going to go with something I'm stealing from our touchdown prop expert, Gilles Gallant. Isaiah Hodgins, anytime touchdown. Look, at the end of last year, for the last 5 games, he was Daniel Jones' main target for scoring touchdowns in the red zone. This is a team that is lacking Saquon Barkley. Somebody on this team has to be a target. I'm going to go with Hodgins because I like the odds on his number are the highest for where I think the value is the most. So give me Isaiah Hodgins, anytime touchdown.
Any bet against the Seahawks secondary in this game feels right, even if Isaiah Hodgins hasn't been as, explosive as he was last year. It does feel like this is Danny Dimes' guy, and you're going up against a Seattle secondary that's just all banged up, hasn't been well. I like where you're headed with that one, and the value is obviously really good. Prop bomb, Charlie, 2 options: Kenneth Walker over 66.5 rushing yards or Isaiah Hodgins anytime touchdowns. Let's make our second leg. 3, 2, 1. The second leg is. Oh, look at that. We've got some artistes in the house with the K9 drawing. You know what, prop bomb? I think the effort was really good, but I think Charlie might have you on the art ability. I know Chad likes to draw sometimes too. Darren's going to come by later. He might get a little jealous. We're all in agreement though, which is fun. Kenneth Walker. I love him. Short area quickness. It's fun to watch Kenneth Walker because he kind of sometimes looks frantic. Like he looks like he's all over the place, but he's always in control. He's an explosive player that is really getting into his element with Seattle. I love over 66.5 rushing yards. Charlie, what was your thought? And great drawing.
Yeah, well, thank you. First off, I think that's better than Tim's drawings that he's ever done on
I know. Tim, sorry, Tim.
Yeah, but I listen, when you look at these 2 legs, I think that, and based on the line movement today, we've seen Seattle kind of take in some money. They have a reliance on Kenneth Walker, and Chad mentioned just how bad the Giants defense is. Kenneth Walker can do this in about 10 to 15 carries, and Seahawks make it a point to give him about 15 to 20 touches a game. So I like them to just rely on him. That's always like a nervous thing when I bet these Seahawks props, is how much they're just going to hand the ball to Kenny. But rather than going with, forcing Daniel Jones to find the end zone, really, I'd rather take Kenneth Walker here and kind of go with our parlay of, maybe they'll start through the passing game and then finish it off with Kenny on the ground.
Don't forget, the Giants have been allowing the 5th most rushing yards per game, which is a clear bet on Kenneth Walker. Prop bomb, why were you looking at him as well? And I do appreciate the art.
Yeah, I didn't win this round this time.
I know.
But yeah, as Chad was saying earlier, I like the fact here that he is 4th in missed tackle rate. That really is good for a guy that is just a breakaway away from a 40-yard pickup or something. And I also lean that the Seahawks win this game just with the offensive line injuries for the Giants, as well as, I'm just really happy that they're finally using this guy. Last year he was just behind the depth charts, I think, to Chris Carson. That's a throwback name. But they're finally using him, and I think this is a good spot for him to just be used in the second half here in what should be a Seahawks win.
The Seahawks running back room has kind of gone through a lot. Chris Carson, he had the neck stuff, and he ended up having to retire early. They had Penny out there. So it's been a little bit. Yeah, exactly. There's been a little bit of movement in the Seattle running back room, and it feels like they finally got it right with Kenneth Walker. I like our parlay so far. We've got JSN over 2.5 receptions. Then we've got Kenneth Walker over his rushing yards, 66.5. Prop bomb. Where are we going for the third leg?
Awesome. Yeah. So for the last piece of the puzzle here, let's start off with option number 1, going with DK Metcalf. to go over 60 plus receiving yards. And this is a popular one, guys. I mean, I've seen everyone on Twitter on this, rightfully so, though. The New York Giants are playing man coverage at the third highest rate this season. And if you are comparing between the two players on the Seattle Seahawks, Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, who to attack when playing man coverage, that guy is going to be DK Metcalf, because Tyler Lockett is the zone guy here. So last year in 2022, when playing up against man coverage, DK Metcalf had a 3.28 yards per route run, which was actually sixth most amongst all 95 qualified wide receivers in this scheme here. And not to mention that the Giants, yes, they're playing man coverage, but they're also 30th in coverage grade in this scheme. And that is because of these two rookie cornerbacks that are pretty much going to be covering DK Metcalf. And I just think it's a huge mismatch just with how big body DK Metcalf is. He's an explosive play waiting to happen. And not to mention as well with the New York Giants is, as Chad alluded to earlier, they are number one in blitzing rate. But despite that, they allow the ninth lowest pressure rate. So they're sending guys to the quarterbacks here, and nothing's really accomplished. And that's only opening up a guy like DK Metcalf for first read option for Geno Smith here. And if you have a fewer person in coverage after that blitz, that's just going to leave them open to a higher percentage target here. And because of that reason, I like him to go over 60 more receiving yards here. It's a popular play for a good reason.
DK Metcalf in man coverage, he's the guy you want to bet on every time. He wins that almost every single time. And he's gone over this number already just this season 2 times, last 2 games. He's been giving up some chunk plays too. Right now, he's averaging over 15 yards per reception, and it should only get easier going up against this Giants defense. What are you looking at for the second option for our third leg?
Yeah, this one's a lean of mine. I like it on the other team side, and that's going to be Darren Waller to go over 50 plus receiving yards. And look, I know everyone is kind of disappointed with how he's been producing this season. There's been a lot of offseason hype for this guy coming from the Raiders. And honestly, I think the product as to why he's having a slow start is because he's had to face tough defenses in the past. The Cowboys and the 49ers are both a top 10 in defending tight ends this season. And a way to beat the Seattle Seahawks is through the middle. You're not going to have to face Tyreek Woolen or Witherspoon, the new rookie here. And look at the last opposing tight ends to face the Seahawks. Sam Laporta, 63 receiving yards. Tyler Higbee, 49 receiving yards. I think there's a good trend for a reason. And also, not to mention, Saquon Barkley is out. So he has a 20.8 target share to start the season. I only see that growing this game. And if Jamal Adams is guarding him in his debut, you have to expect he's going to be rusty. And I love it here. Let's go the over 50 plus receiving yards for Darren Waller. Finally hoping for a good game for Giants fans here.
Prop bomb. This is the last week I'm keeping Darren Waller in my fantasy lineup before I'm benching him. This is his last chance. So I like this because I have to have some faith in Waller. He did have 76 receiving yards against the Cardinals defense. That's a lot weaker than San Francisco and Dallas. Maybe we see something similar. I'm so torn because I'm so mad at him, but yet I do still think there's a reason why the Giants went out and traded for him. There's a reason why they got him, and Danny Dimes is going to try to connect with him. And I do like where you're looking there. Darren Waller, over 50 plus receiving yards, or DK Metcalf, 60 plus receiving yards. Chad, Charlie, where are we looking? Which alt line are we taking? 3, 2, 1. I'm scared of Waller. Do you guys too?
You lied.
Charlie, look at that. Look at the gains on Mr. DK. We love it. All in agreement. Everyone's fading Waller. We want him to be good. I want him to be good. I'm afraid of him. And I might look back and say, why didn't I add this to the parlay? Because he's going to take off. But DK Metcalf is the clearer, I think, more safe bet. Charlie, what were you looking at with Metcalf over Waller?
Yeah, I mean, this is like a prop that I had bet earlier today as well, over 63.5, but I like him to have a huge day, DK. I just think this Giants secondary is where you want to attack. They have two rookie cornerbacks, and DK is one of the best receivers in football. And Prop Bomb obviously mentioned just how dominant DK is against man-to-man. This is a smash spot for DK. I think he's gonna absolutely go off, and he's a deep ball threat as well in those blitzes and those blitz packages. So love him here. Darren Waller, it's hard because I also love him a lot too. And I was high on him coming out of the, entering this season. But I just can't trust the Giants offense totally right now. Without Saquon too, there's more, emphasis on maybe slowing down a guy like Waller and forcing someone like Darius Slayton or Wan'Dale Robinson to beat them. So I'd rather go with the safer option and the better option here. And that's DK to have a good day.
The Seahawks offense to have a good day is what we're looking at in this parlay. It all correlates. It leads to a high scoring game. Maybe we should be tagging on Seahawks team total over because we like the Seahawks offense and we like DK. I like the alt line at 60 plus as well. Chad, why were you going DK over Waller?
Well, listen, I got to say, Prop Bomb nearly convinced me to want to change my bet to Darren Waller.
Right, me too.
If not for the fact we had all these graphics already done, I totally would have changed it to Darren Waller. But look, I went with DK before sort of all the explanations. And I think it's really because this is a spot where the variance is so big. That's for true. DK Metcalf, right? He can get 120 in this game. He could also get 15 because there are plenty of times like he is oft injured, oft banged up. But at the end of the day, this Giants secondary is in such bad shape that the opportunity for him to be open, I think we're all saying the same thing here. The Giants like to blitz. They're not very good at it. They're not very good in coverage. So the opportunity for DK to reach this number increases by the minute, which is why we're seeing the total continue to go higher.
And you know what I like about the way we're approaching this parlay? It's not like we're taking over on Lockett and on DK. When you look at the Seahawks offense, it feels like it's like, all right, either Lockett's going to have a huge game or DK's going to have a huge game. We can still get JSN 3 receptions and DK go off for over 100 receiving yards. It feels like this is the, traditional Pete Carroll game plan going up against a really weak Giants secondary. They're going to use what they can in DK Metcalf. I like where we're looking. Let's build our parlay all together. We've got some good ones. We're looking at DK Metcalf, 60 plus receiving yards, Kenneth Walker over 66.5 rushing yards, and Jackson Smith and Jigba over 2.5 receptions. You add them all up, plus 407. This is all available on FanDuel Sportsbook. We'll go and talk about a little bit of a bonus bet. We might be throwing Waller back in there to get you some more odds. Before we do that, let's check in with Darren Ravel for the most bet on props this week.
Thanks, Megan. Let's get to the most popular props. Kenneth Walker to score first touchdown is plus 490. Kenneth Walker to score anytime touchdown is minus 120. We know that the public loves that recency. Kenneth Walker against the Panthers and the Lions had 2 touchdowns in each of those games, so 4 touchdowns. Reminder, all of last year he had 9. But again, that is what the public loves. They love the anytime touchdown. The first touchdown, and DK Metcalf over 65.5 receiving yards, minus 110. Those are the top 3 props today. Nothing on the New York Giants.
Thank you, Darren. Everyone loves our boy DK. We're betting on him. Public's betting on him. He's going to have a big day. Now, I did some fun things on FanDuel while Darren was talking. I just added in for fun Kenneth Walker, anytime touchdown. That's my bonus bet. Walker had 2 touchdowns last week, 2 touchdowns the week before. Seattle uses him a lot on the goal line. He's a player that's going to get heavily involved in this Seahawks offense. And he's a person that he can also score from anywhere on the field. Like you give him the ball, the 20, 30 yard line, and he can run. He makes plays. He's quick area shortness, quickness. And he's also able to break through certain contacts. I like him to get in the end zone. But I was also, Prop Bomb, really excited about that Darren Waller bet. So if we did add 50 plus receiving yards for Darren Waller, anytime touchdown for Kenneth Walker, we're at plus 1338 on FanDuel Sportsbook. Now, of course, for our rankings, we're going to stick with our 3-leg parlay, which is going to do great. And you're still going to get plus over 400. But it's fun to have some fun with these things. I'm feeling good, guys. This Monday Night Football game, Seahawks Giants, Seahawks offense, let's go off. Charlie, Chad, Prop Bomb, thank you for all of your insight. Thanks for joining us here on Action Island. We'll see you here next time.